Hello and welcome. Again, good evening and welcome everyone to our live telephone town hall meeting we have for you this evening. We hope we find you all well and dry inside your homes this evening. I want to thank everyone for being on the line with us. We'll get started here in just a few moments. We are inviting you to join Representative Malinowski for this telephone town hall to discuss the issues most important to you. Yourself and residents in New Jersey's 7th Congressional District will have the opportunity to ask questions, share your concerns, and get updates on the latest from Congress. As we continue our dialogue, I want to inform folks who are on the call to press 0 on the keypad on your phone to submit your questions, comments, or concerns that you may have for your representative this evening. You can do that now or at any time throughout this forum. Again, that's pressing 0 on the keypad on your phone to submit those questions. Also, we're always trying to expand our email list, so now is more important than ever. If you would like, please press 7 on the keypad on your phone to provide us your email address. By doing so, you'll ensure that you receive future updates. A note on that, due to House administrative rules, after today, we will not be able to send you unsolicited emails. So if you want to stay up to date with what's going on right now, especially, press 7 on the keypad on your phone to provide us your email address so we can keep you up to date going forward. I'll go through this intro probably one more time as we are dialing out to thousands of neighbors this evening. So I'd like to say hello and hello again. Welcome to this live telephone town hall meeting we have for you this evening. Again, you're live on the line with Congressman Tom Malinowski, and we are reaching out to you to open up the conversation. If you have questions, comments, or concerns this evening, please press 0 on the keypad on your phone to get in line with your question. We hope we are finding you safe and dry this evening and are so glad to have you on our event. Also this evening, if you would like to provide us your email address so that we can keep you up to date going forward, please press 7 on the keypad on your phone. Again, to be kept up to date on the latest from Congress, please press 7 on the keypad on your phone. And again, due to House administrative rules, after today, we will be unable to send you those emails unless you opt in. So make sure you press 7 during this event this evening to provide us your email address so we can keep you up to date going forward. And with that, I will just say one last time, press 0 to get in line with your question. And please remember that there will be many folks in the area on the phone tonight, so please don't share any personal information over the call. And with that, it is now my pleasure to turn this call over to your Congressman. Tom, please take it away.
Thank you so much, and thank you everybody as always for joining us this evening. I know it's been a rough day for a lot of us. I was out in my yard this afternoon dealing with downed trees. My power's out. I think the latest we've checked with JCP&L and PSNG, it looks like over 1 million folks in New Jersey have lost their power because of this intense storm that we just experienced. So I hope everybody's okay. I trust that if you're on the call, that means you're okay. But you know, we all realize it has been a very difficult day. I wanted to say a few words up front about the main issue that we're still dealing with in Congress and as a country, the coronavirus crisis. As you all know, we are in negotiations right now in Washington, D.C. To try to get one more big relief bill done. But to provide some context, I want to go back to what we've already done. In March, as you all know, we passed the CARES Act, which was a very ambitious bill to try to help people weather this pandemic storm that our country has faced. And I want to tell you just how much we've been able to do for folks in our district with the aid that was provided under that bill. Just in our district alone, so that's, you know, parts of Somerset County, Hunterdon County, Morris, Warren, Union, and one town in Essex County, we received $762 million just for unemployment insurance. 75,000 people just in our district took unemployment benefits since the pandemic began. And keep in mind, in our district, we only have about 400,000 working adults. So 75,000 of those 400,000 have to take advantage of the unemployment insurance. On top of that, well over $1 billion just in our district alone was received by our small businesses in forgivable loans under the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program. That's 15,000 businesses in our district alone, supporting about 135,000 jobs. Again, that's 135,000 out of the 400,000 working adults that we have in our district. So you can see how incredibly important that relief has been to our economy over the last few months, and you can imagine what might have happened if we hadn't been able to come together to provide it. So that's good news. The bad news, of course, is that the whole point of that relief was to buy the country time to bring the COVID-19 pandemic under control. And unfortunately, we've not done that. The White House did not take responsibility for a national coronavirus testing and contact tracing strategy. It left it up to the 50 states to figure out what to do on their own. New Jersey, I'm proud to say we did what we had to do, but a lot of other states did not. Frankly, a lot of other states were more eager to open bars than to make it safe to open schools. That's the choice that they made. And unfortunately, we're now all suffering from that choice because this thing is spiking all over the country. Even in New Jersey, where we've done a lot better, we're feeling it because, as I imagine many of you have experienced, it's now taking around 10 days to get our test results back. And that means we got plenty of testing for coronavirus in New Jersey, but it's basically useless if you have to wait 10 days or more because you don't know whether you should quarantine. You can't do contact tracing. And that's solely because of the spike in other states, which has created massive demand for the labs that run these tests nationwide. So that's unfortunately where we are. We're the only advanced democratic country in the world that has not gotten this thing under control. And a lot of us unfortunately saw that coming a couple of months ago. We realized that we were not going to beat this quickly and that we would therefore need more economic relief. So 2 months ago, the House of Representatives passed the HEROES Act, which would have extended the unemployment benefits beyond their expiration date. They are expiring now. Would have extended the moratorium on renters being evicted, which would have provided at least one more economic impact payment, the $1,200 payment that many folks got. We did this 2 months ago, and unfortunately, the U.S. Senate shrugged its shoulders and said, we don't feel any sense of urgency, and they did not feel any sense of urgency until basically last week when we hit upon the deadline for the unemployment benefits and other things expiring. And so here we are now, seriously negotiating, finally, a bill that we should have been negotiating 2 months ago. We're sitting down with the White House, with the President's Chief of Staff, with the Secretary of the Treasury. Senator McConnell, for some reason, is not at the table. He wants us to work this out with President Trump, but whatever, we will work something out. And my expectation is that by the end of this week or early next week, we will have a deal. I'll tell you what my priorities are. I'll tell you what my red lines are. Obviously, we need to do something with unemployment benefits because we can't just go from the kind of protection we provided to absolutely nothing overnight. A red line for me is we need relief for our state, county, and local governments because revenues are down. They're going to stay down because of the economic crisis. Our state our municipalities. They have to balance their budgets. And if they don't get some relief, that means we're going to be laying off teachers, we're going to be laying off cops, we're going to be laying off firefighters at a time when we're actually we need those folks even more than ever, and that's unacceptable to me. So that is a red line. Another red line for me is we need funding in this bill for the post office. Many of you, I think, have read about what's happening to the post office. We have a Postmaster General who has, in fact, ordered mail to be slowed down. We have people all across our district and our country who are dependent on mail deliveries. They get their medicines delivered by mail. We are, of course, dependent on the post office for our elections to run smoothly. And personally, I believe that the slowdown in mail delivery and the refusal of some people in Washington to fund the post office is part of an effort to try to create chaos this election day, and I am not going to allow that to happen. I will do everything in my power to prevent that. So this bill has to include funding for the post office. I'm not alone in feeling strongly about that. I think we'll be successful. So those are some of the issues that we're talking about. There are a lot of others that are addressed in this bill. I imagine many of you will have questions that touch on the points that I've raised, but also points that I didn't have time to raise. I look forward to taking all those questions and doing my best to answer them. And of course, we can talk about things that go well beyond coronavirus relief, any issues that you guys have on your minds. Please feel free, excuse me, to raise them, and I will do my best to answer. So let's go to the Q&A and look forward to a great conversation.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Again, that's Congressman Malinowski. We have Keisha and Jerry in line right now, but want to remind everyone how you can join the conversation. Do that by pressing 0 on the keypad on your phone if you have a question, comment, or concern. I also want to remind folks you can press 7 to provide us your email address. Again, due to House administrative rules, after today, we will be unable to email you unless you opt in by pressing 7 and provide us that email address. There is a bit of a queue right now, but we are working as quickly as we can to speak with each and every one of you. So again, pressing 7 to provide us your email address so you ensure that you receive important information and updates going forward. With that, we have Keisha, Jerry, and Patrick in line. Keisha, you're live on the line with Congressman Malinowski. Please go ahead with your question.
Hi, Tom. How are you? This is Keisha.
Hi, Keisha.
I believe that you answered a lot of my questions. I believe after about 3 weeks, I was finally able to even contact someone at your office where they was able to, get some traction with the system for me to even file a claim. And I was, I just read on the internet that one of the senators that was opposing the 600 is now, willing to extend the 600, in addition to the unemployment. Do you see, what timeline do you see them pretty much passing this? I believe that you spoke on it earlier, but do you actually think that it could be passed by the beginning of next week?
Yes, I do. I think everybody does feel a sense of urgency now. Again, I'm angry that we didn't do this because Senator McConnell just wasn't interested 2 months ago. But everyone feels a sense of urgency now. I can't tell you it's going to be Friday, Saturday, Monday, because, it's a tough negotiation. But I think we'll get there. We have senators who are stuck in Washington right now waiting for this thing, and they want to go home. They want to have their August back home with their families. I think, the president and everybody sees that we can't, we're not at a place with the coronavirus where we can just afford to stop providing help to people. So whether they're doing it for the right reasons, because they have compassion and they care about people, or because of their political interests, I think everybody now realizes we got to do something. So stay tuned, stay in touch with us. Obviously, And, if there are any issues with your particular claim, as you already know from your experience, we're ready to go to bat for you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tom, and thanks so much, Keisha. So glad to have you join our conversation this evening. Right now, looks like Jerry just went to collect her email address, so we'll take Patrick in Montgomery. We'll get Jerry when she comes back. Patrick, you are live on the line right now with your congressman. Go ahead with your question.
Good evening, Congressman Malinowski. Pleasure to speak with you, and thank you for taking my call. Kind of a two-part question. First one is, what are your thoughts on the Black Lives Matters movement that's going on across the country? And secondly, what are you doing for, or have you had any conversations with your constituents of color regarding some of the issues that are going on?
The answer to the second question is yes, absolutely. With regard to the Black Lives Matter movement, as you know, back in June, we had a number of marches and demonstrations in our district. I marched and gave speeches at 5 rallies myself, Flemington and North Plainfield, and Summit, Westfield, and Milburn. Obviously, we don't have a lot of opportunities to meet face-to-face anymore, but I did meet a lot of folks face-to-face at those marches. I've had one-on-one meetings with young people of color who've asked to see me about their concerns since this all arose. And as you know, we did work hard to get a bill passed in the House of Representatives to try to get some reforms to policing in our country in the wake of the killing of Mr. Floyd and the very legitimate outcry that arose across the country in response to that. So that bill takes care of a lot of these issues. It calls for greater transparency and accountability, and bans racial profiling, better training, really kind of a reimagining of how we do policing in our communities. And we thought we had a chance to get something done with the Senate there, because there were a lot of proposals, including from Republicans in the Senate, that didn't go quite as far as what we were doing, but far enough that I thought we could sit down and find some common ground. We ran into some difficulties, and right now, we're struggling to get this coronavirus bill passed. But this is something I want to get back to when we have our September session, and I'm still hopeful that we can get something done. So that I hope addresses your question. But please know I continue to listen and be open to suggestions, criticism, and I'm not going to stop until we actually get some changes.
Great. Thank you so much, Congressman. Thanks so much, Patrick. Thanks for joining our conversation this evening. Right now, we've got Jerry live, and then Hector and Judith in line. Jerry, you're live on the line with Congressman Malinowski. Go ahead with your question.
Great. Thank you. Hi, Congressman Malinowski. So you did address somewhat the concern that I was going to raise, which is about the post office. And I'm glad to hear that you feel confident that there will be funding for that in the bill that you work out with the Senate. I just want to express that from my perspective, this is like a really dire issue. And I guess I'm curious to know, like, if you run into further challenges in terms of protecting and preserving the post office, like to what extent do you see a path where the House could, play hardball, or what options do you have available to make sure that the post office can provide the services that we're going to need to have a real election with mail-in balloting in November?
Yep, we're playing hardball right now. This is our opportunity, because we have a bill that has to be passed. Both sides, all sides, recognize that we need another relief bill. And so this isn't one of those situations, where the House passes a bill and then it goes to die in the Senate, or the president never considers signing it. We're going to have a bill. We know that. And that gives us a lot of leverage to say, this has to be part of it. And what I hope I will convey to you today is my absolute determination that this be part of any final package. We need funding to keep the post office afloat. We need protection against efforts to politicize it, to use it to support somebody's agenda. This is one of the oldest institutions in our country. Ben Franklin was the first Postmaster General. This is one of the most basic services that government provides. And it's an institution that is supposed to have nothing to do with politics, right? They're just supposed to deliver the mail efficiently. They're not supposed to do it in support or against anybody's political agenda. And I'm very concerned about the administration trying to appoint people to run the post office who may have a political agenda in mind and using and starving it of funds so that the chaos that they want to see happen in November becomes inevitable. We cannot allow that. And and I'm not just speaking for myself here. I think there is widespread consensus on this in the House. Our leadership, including Speaker Pelosi, feel very strongly about it as well. So we have the leverage, we have the determination, and that's what makes me pretty confident that we'll get a decent result.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tom. Thanks so much, Jerry. So glad to have you on the line. Right now we have Hector up live on the line with your congressman. Go ahead with your question.
Congressman, you've answered one of the issues that I had about the post office. You're doing very strongly on that. The other one was, is there something the House Democrats can do to protect the Bureau of the Census? That has recently come under attack for specific political reasons to cause an undercounting, and I am stunned that 40% of the households is projected, 40% of the households will not have their census taken if the Trump administration has its way. So is there anything that you and the House Democrats can do to protect the Bureau of the Census? And you're doing a great job.
Thank you, Hector. Thank you so much. I share that concern. There are a couple of things going on. Number one, the administration is saying that they may want the collection to be completed early, regardless of how many people are counted. And the other is that they have, the president issued an executive order saying that somehow any undocumented people who are counted, as they have to be because we count everybody regardless of status, that they would not be counted in apportioning congressional seats for, I guess, the 2022 election. On the first and more urgent of those, ending the count early, I just don't think they can do that. And we've pointed out that the law says that you have to count 99%. That's the minimum. Again, the census is one of those old institutions. Again, goes back to the earliest days of our republic. And the whole point of the census is to count everybody. And I think if they try to get out from that requirement, it will be challenged very swiftly in the courts, and they will lose. And one way or another, by hook or by crook, we are going to count those people. And the same goes for the apportionment. I just don't think, whatever one's views about immigration and what should be done with undocumented folks in the United States, it has always been clearly understood under our Constitution that everybody gets counted and that every person in the United States is counted for apportionment. I cannot imagine the administration prevailing in court if it tries to make a different argument. We've raised this in our discussions with the White House in the last several days. We've made it clear that this is our view. It's probably not something that gets taken care of in the coronavirus bill, but I think our leverage here really lies more in the courts, and I think we will prevail there.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Congressman. Thanks so much, Hector. So glad to have you on the line. Right now we have Smita and Eileen in line. Smita, you are live on the line with Congressman Malinowski. Go ahead with your question.
Congressman, thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to speak. We know that the federal and the state have done really wonderful job on PPP and EIDL and stimulus check and so forth. However, there are some small businesses such as mine are impacted, and there is no income and no business for a year and a half. I'm totally shut for a year and a half. Question is, what kind of help we can get? Because even though our business is shut, we have some small expenses we are holding on our head. And I don't know where to go and how to manage certain things. Since I'm not taking, on my tax return, I'm not taking W-2 or 1040. I'm taking K-1. So then there is no income after that. What should I do on this situation? Is there any help we can get from state or anywhere?
Thank you, Smita. What kind of business do you have, if I may ask?
I'm a national promoter where I do petition for artists, and I do petition from India, and they come over here and they perform the shows around all over USA. And as a situation with the USCIS, I'm completely shut for a year and a half. My tour starts usually from March, and it lasts till November or so. So whole year is gone, and same impact is going to happen for next year. I cannot do anything until May. So a year and a half I have lost, and still I have expense on my head because I have my 15-seater van and the U-Haul and those kind of stuff. I have to pay the monthly payment on them, and still there is no income.
And if just so that I'm clear, are you also referring to the immigration restrictions that have been
including
put into place? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So we have a combination of problems here that suggest that you do need a lot of help. We are trying to get the PPP program extended further in this coronavirus bill, so that may be of help. There are state programs that Governor Murphy and the state legislature have also announced that can help small businesses. And there may also be some tax relief that you can qualify for. Rather than trying to figure this all out for you on the call, because we would need more details, if I could suggest, if you're willing, that you leave your information for us. I think the moderator can explain how to do that or how to contact us separately, and I can have a staff person work with you to try to figure out what your options are. Ideally after we pass this bill, because then we will have more clarity about the way ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Congressman. And Smita, I have a couple of different options for you. We do have your information. We can get back to you, or at the end of this call, everyone will be able to leave us a voicemail, and we will get back to you. So a couple of options for you there, Smita, but so glad to have you on the line. Looking forward to speaking with you in the future. Right now we have Eileen and then Ron. Eileen, you are Eileen, David, and Ron. You're live on the line. Go ahead with your question for the Congressman.
Okay, thank you. This is Eileen. First, I want to thank you for continuing to keep us up to date on these important issues with these telephone town halls. It's really very much appreciated. And I wanted to applaud Congress for passing today the Great American Outdoors Act, which was signed into law today. It provides permanent funding for the Land and Conservation Fund, bringing much-needed permanent funding to New Jersey for infrastructure projects, which also bring jobs and boost local economies. If you think about it, passing such a monumental conservation law with bipartisan support during these times is truly astounding, and I just wanted to acknowledge that because it happened today. So thanks for any efforts that you had in doing that. So related to that, my actual question is, where do you see Congress going in the near future to support green solutions and to provide good, green, secure jobs in response to the economic downturn due to COVID? Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Eileen, for that question. And yes, actually, the President signed it today. So it is now officially the law of the Land and Water Conservation Fund. Is something we've had for a long time, and it's supported a lot of things that we love in our district. The Round Valley Reservoir, for example, the Great National Swamp wildlife area, and a lot of other recreational and open spaces that so many of us enjoy. And what we did was we for the first time permanently reauthorized it, so it doesn't, it's not going to be at the mercy of congressional politics and budgetary negotiations. It's going to be there in perpetuity. And it's just really nice to be able to do it in a bipartisan way to get the President's support. Shows that things are not totally dysfunctional. So thank you for raising that. On green infrastructure, so we've been talking about economic relief in this conversation, how to help people survive this economic crisis. At some point, hopefully soon, we will be talking about stimulating the economy, recovery. And I think the best way to do that is by funding infrastructure. Now, when we think about infrastructure in the state of New Jersey, we think to begin with about our roads and our bridges, our trains, our tunnels, especially the Gateway Tunnel, which I have been fighting for since the day I got into Congress with some success. But it should also mean, as we rebuild things, as we fix things, transitioning to a more green economy, because number one, it's good for the environment. Number two, I want the United States of America to lead the world in the transition to a clean energy economy. Whichever country does that first, that country is going to dominate the global economy in the 21st century. I want it to be us, and I want New Jersey to be a leader within the United States in that effort. So we just did pass a bill in the House of Representatives, a big infrastructure bill that absolutely does what we need for our highways and our trains and our concrete infrastructure, but it also upgrades our electrical grid. It also creates, and this was my part of the bill, a new grant program for green infrastructure where we're actually using natural things like tree planting to give ourselves more resiliency against climate change, and a whole bunch of other things that will help us make that transition. Can we pass it this year? It's possible, because President Trump has also spoken a lot about the need for a big infrastructure bill. Seems like every third Thursday he tweets out something about it. So we're there for him. We've done a bill that should be the basis of negotiations, and if not this fall, then it's going to be an early priority in January and February. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Congressman, and thank you so much, Eileen. So glad to have you on the line. And the folks much smarter than me they gave me an email address that anyone can email if you have specific casework questions. So I'll give it to you now, and then everyone can grab a pen and paper, and I'll give it to you again after we take David's question next. But the email address, if you have specific casework, is nj07.casework@mail.house.gov. nj07.casework.gov. Again, so it's nj07.casework@mail.house.gov. And again, I'll give that to you again after we take David live here. So you can grab a pen and paper if you need to. David, you are live right now with Congressman Malinowski. Go ahead with your question.
Thank you very much, Congressman. I'm excited to participate. My original question was actually having to do with the relief package, but you discussed that earlier, so if you don't mind, I would like to ask a different question. I want to prefix it by saying, you know, we live in Morris County, New Jersey. My wife was an immigrant to the United States about 20 years ago and became a citizen, and most of our friends are immigrants as well. And one of the things that has become very apparent to us is that our nation is no longer united, or at least that's the feeling we have. And partisan politics has definitely seems to have taken center stage. And we were wondering as a family what Congress is doing to try and help reunite the country, because we feel more pitted against one another now than we ever have in the 45 years I've been alive.
Yeah, I feel what you're feeling. I'm an immigrant myself, as you may know. I came here as a child with my mom. We had a vision, ideal of America, as do, I think, all people who come here, who choose America, who volunteer to become Americans. That's how I view immigrants. They're volunteer Americans. And we've got to live up to that ideal, and it's been a constant struggle, as I don't need to convince you, I'm sure, in our more than 200 years of history of trying to build a more perfect union. We've never quite realized that ideal, and certainly today our deep, deep divisions are making it harder. One of the things, I think the most important thing Congress can do to heal the divisions, frankly, is to do its job and to show that in the face of crisis, in the face of great need, we can pass legislation, we can come together across partisan lines, even if we argue, even if we call each other names in the process. That's politics, it's okay, as long as we come together in the end to do things that help the American people. And, you know, I do think in the last few months, we have been doing that more often than not, despite the partisanship that you read about, especially, you know, when we're on the internet, when we're on cable news. We actually have, with the CARES Act, with the bill that we are negotiating today, with that environmental bill that the previous caller mentioned, we actually have done some things to show that our institutions can work, and I hope that will also in turn increase the confidence of the American people that this republic is worth saving, because sometimes I worry people are losing faith in that. We can achieve this goal by watching the tone of our own statements, by trying to keep our debates about policy, about substance, not about personalities. We can help advance that goal by at least trying to agree on a common set of facts. I don't mind ideological differences. That's what makes politics interesting. But I do worry when increasingly Americans don't even agree on the same set of facts that should be the basis for those arguments. And there, I think, you know, we do need to take a very hard look at the role that social media is playing in encouraging this polarization that you mentioned. I'll tell you the big difference, or one big difference between the America that I came to as a young immigrant and the America we live in today. Back then, we all got our news, we all got our information from the same place. We gathered around the TV set at 7 p.m. and we watched Walter Cronkite or one of the other evening shows, and it was objective, it was factual. And then we were Republicans and Democrats, and we debated stuff, but we at least agreed on the facts. Today, we are getting our news from individually tailored feeds that come to us through Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, If you're a conservative, you're getting deeply conservative content. If you're a liberal, you're getting deeply liberal content. The algorithms that they write are designed to make us emotionally engage with the content so that we get angry, so that we stay online, so that we see more ads and buy more stuff. And it is probably the greatest practical reason, concrete reason for this division, for this polarization. And so I have been exploring ways of putting much greater pressure on the social media companies, on these big companies, to deal with those algorithms, to deal with the recipe for the product that they feed us every single day, so that at the very least Americans can start our arguments from a common set of facts. It's a complicated issue, and I don't have much more time to get into it today, but happy to give you more detail if you want to reach out separately, and I can talk you through some of the potential solutions that we're looking at.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Congressman. Thank you so much, David. So glad to have you on the line this evening. And again, that email, as promised, if you have an issue with a federal agency, unemployment insurance, or need small business support, again, please email us at nj07.casework@mail.house.gov. And also, you can press 7 to provide us your email address. We still do have a little bit of a queue there. Thanks, everyone, for waiting. We just want to make sure to get as many email addresses as possible this evening, as due to House administrative rules, after today, we will not be able to email you updates unless you opt in. So again, pressing 7 on the keypad on your phone to provide us that email address. Right now, we have Mark, then Ron, and then Melissa. Mark, you are live on the line with Congressman Tom Malinowski. Go ahead with your question.
Hey, Congressman, it's Mark. I really appreciate all you're doing. I could not agree more with your last statements around social media. You are my hero. You're the only thing that's keeping me mentally sane right now. So I hope you feel really good about that. 2 questions. First and foremost, what can we do more than, besides voting for you and making sure you're reelected and continuing to support everything you do, to bring us back, as David said, to be a united country and to focus on the facts and to focus on what matters for our country, so we are united again? And the second question is, hats off to all healthcare workers, hats off to the great Rutgers University in building out that saliva test. We need to get smart with how we're taking care of COVID, and we are absolutely the stupidest country right now on this. I've seen pictures of people in Wisconsin that are packed together like sardines. We're spreading COVID because we're absolutely stupid. How do we address this in a better way? Masks, 6 feet, and wash your hands. I mean, it's pretty simple. But kindergartners can do it. So help me out.
It's not. It's not that complicated. But you know what? I'm gonna tell you something a little more optimistic. I actually think the vast majority of Americans are pretty united on these things. If you look at the polls over the last few months, consistently overwhelming majorities, not 52, not 58, but 70, 80% of Americans think we should put public health first above all other things right now. We want to save lives. That's what we want to do. We want to help people get through this. Opening schools safely for our kids is a lot more important to most Americans than opening bars. And we will take care of the bar and restaurant owners through the relief that we're providing. Overwhelming majorities want us to follow science. We see people, we see a handful of people here and there behaving irresponsibly, and even a small handful can cause this thing to spread. But again, overwhelmingly, we want to be responsible. After on another issue, we were talking about the Black Lives Matter movement and what happened after the George Floyd killing. Again, overwhelming majorities, not just of Democrats, but even but of Republicans as well, thought, my God, that's wrong what happened to that man. There's something deeply wrong with a system that allows that. We ought to be protesting that. We ought to be calling for change. Overwhelming majorities of Americans respect police officers and yet believe that we need to have reform. That was really heartening to me. Now, it only takes a little bit of irresponsible leadership from you-know-who to light a match where there's gasoline. And so we keep having to put out these fires that are started by a small number of irresponsible people. And we are learning the hard way how important good leadership is, how important it is to have sane, competent, compassionate people, whether they are Republicans or Democrats, liberals or conservatives, in positions of responsibility. And so my optimistic belief is that this has been a learning process for a lot of people. This has been a great civic education for the American people about the importance of having that once again. I believe we will have that once again, and the memory of the difficulties that we've experienced these last few years will keep us going for some time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Congressman. Thank you so much, Mark. So glad to have you on the line. Right now we have Ron, Melissa, and then Fred in line. Ron, you're live on the line with Congressman Tom Malinowski. Go ahead with your question.
Hello, Congressman. Thank you for all your efforts to date. My question is, or my concern is, what happens if we have an election, Donald Trump loses, and then refuses to step down, refuses to accept the results of the election? What is going to be done to protect our democracy? Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. So there are a couple of different scenarios. If the president clearly has lost the election and he just refuses to step down, I'm a little bit less concerned. I mean, I'm concerned about the divisiveness of that. I'm concerned about, mobilizing people onto the streets to question the legitimacy of an election, even though most of us accept that that the outcome is clear. But as far as the legal status of the president, whoever wins the election will be sworn in as president on January 20th. And from that moment, the federal government will owe its allegiance, including our military, to the commander-in-chief, to the president of the United States. And if somebody is saying, I'm still president and I'm not going to leave, that's a logistical problem. That's not a constitutional problem. We can deal with that. But that's just one scenario. Another scenario that I think is a bit more real is we have a very close election. And in some of the closest and most pivotal states, you have millions of absentee votes still out there, uncounted, on election night. Perhaps the president has a majority of the vote counted within the polling stations. And at that point, he just says, I've won, and the state legislatures in those states stop the count and certify the election before we fully count the votes that have been sent in by mail. I worry about this because, I unfortunately have to read the president's Twitter feed every day, and he seems to be laying the predicate for the argument that anything done by mail, at least if it goes against him, is illegitimate. And that's why we got to make sure that we support the post office, so we have a minimum of chaos on election day, so those ballots are not delayed. It's why we have to keep educating the American people that our election system is in fact secure, both at the polling place and voting from home, which 5 states do exclusively: Washington, Oregon, Hawaii, Colorado, Utah. Everybody votes by mail every single election, and it's absolutely fine. We need to provide some money to our states to upgrade their election systems to make sure that things go as smoothly as possible on Election Day. And then we just have to be very vigilant in defense of our Constitution, in defense of our values, no matter what the outcome is. This isn't about President Trump winning or losing. It's about making sure that the American people decide who our next president is in the way that we have in every election throughout our history. Even elections we've held during Civil War, during World Wars, we've always been able to do this. We must be able to do it again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Congressman. Thank you so much, Ron. Great point to bring up. So glad to have you on the line. Right now, Melissa before Fred. Melissa, you are live on the line with your congressman. Please go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Congressman, for taking my call. I really appreciate the work you're doing for us in Washington. And
thank you,
my question, I just wanted to get your thoughts really about our push to return to school. I'm an educator and I'm a parent of an 11-year-old. And, it's talked about as a way to get the economy back running and obviously to get the kids back learning and to get parents back to work. And what I've noticed is that we're talking now, in the beginning anyway, of looking at half-day returns and, which means that any given child would only be in school for a half day for 2 days a week. And by increasing that small amount of class time, we're increasing their exposure exponentially to the virus, it seems to me. And without widespread testing, I'm very concerned about that. And also, they're participating in outdoor sports apparently without masks and things like that are being allowed now. And I'm just, since we're trying to be science-driven, I'm concerned that, it's becoming a rush to do this without really looking carefully at, the risk that is involved.
Thank you. I very much share that concern. It has to be based on how well we are doing in controlling the pandemic. We've done pretty well in New Jersey, but as many of you surely know, in the last couple of weeks, our numbers have started to creep up again because I believe irresponsible decisions have been made in other states, and New Jersey is not an island. We are not isolated from the rest of the country. Look, here's my view. If we really cared enough about our kids to open schools safely, which I want to do desperately because it's so much better for kids to be in a classroom and to be together and to be with their teachers. But if we really cared enough about our kids to make that possible, we would shut this country down for 3 weeks right now, the whole country. But we can't do that without the president because you can't have 50 states independently somehow, but in coordination with each other, making a decision like that. And there are plenty of people who just won't do it unless the president says that they should. And so, the next best alternative is what we are trying to do right now, which is every voice we can find, encourage those voices to tell people to socially distance, provide as much money to the states as we can to set up testing and to allow for different kinds of solutions with our schools. And right now, if I have to make the call for the state of New Jersey, again, the rate of infection is going up again, and the wait time to get a test result is up to 10 days. I don't feel confident that we can do that. As much as it pains me because I think it's, not good for our kids to continue to keep them home. So, it just comes back to, are we doing enough to fight the coronavirus? That's the question. And it makes me very angry when I hear politicians in Washington saying you must reopen your schools when their job is not to tell us to do that. Their job is to help us to do that by fighting the coronavirus effectively.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Congressman Malinowski. Thanks so much, Melissa. So glad to have you on our event this evening. Next up, we have Fred. Fred, you are live right now. Please go ahead with your question.
Yes, Congressman, thank you for taking my my call. I'm kind of curious what's going to happen. I know you're passing a new stimulus package. You get $600 in everybody's pocket every week. And the last time we did this, it lasted, what, two and a half, 3 months. What's going to happen after November is over and this next stimulus package ends? Do we have a long-term plan? Because I know that COVID's going to keep going.
It's a good question. I can't answer it precisely because we don't yet know what the final deal in the next week is going to look like. One of the things we have to decide as we write this bill is how long are we going to extend these programs for, and we don't know that yet. In the HEROES Act, we extended the unemployment relief through January. My guess is that it probably won't be that long in this bill because we have to make some compromises, in which case we may have to deal with it again. Remember, all of this comes back to what I keep stressing, which is our inability to deal with the disease itself. No other country in the world has this problem. Every other country, every other advanced, wealthy, democratic country is reopening right now because they shut down effectively. They had national governments that took responsibility for getting COVID-19 under control. We unfortunately did not, so we have to keep on passing these bills. We have to keep on borrowing money, basically, to keep people afloat. And I don't want to have to pass another stimulus bill because I want us finally to get this thing under control. And that is partly under our control because we control our own behavior and can encourage good behavior among others. So stay tuned and hopefully you'll have more clarity on that question. We all will next week.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Congressman, and thank you so much, Fred. Glad to have you on the line. Up next, we have Judy. Judy, you are live on the line with Congressman Tom Malinowski. Go ahead with your question.
Hi, Mr. Congressman. Can you hear
me?
Judy,
I can hear
Hi.
you, yep.
Hi. I've been on quite a few times. You might remember me. Judy from Rockaway. I'm a small business owner, single mom, and I've pretty much lost my business. I had 2 businesses going. I had one in Dover and one in Rockaway. I was pivoting from the Dover one, into the Rockaway one and did that successfully. Unfortunately, the gal that took over the Dover location went under due to the pandemic. That was sad. I have not been able to restart my business in the Rockaway area because the goalposts keep moving on me, keep getting moved. So I'm trying my best to apply for different help, if you will. So I have applied for against what I believe in because I'm a worker. I've been working since I was 14, and I'm not used to this. So I had to apply for rental assistance because if I don't apply for rental assistance, I will be thrown out of my newly rented space. I just came in February, and the pandemic started in March. So I applied, and thankfully I was chosen out of the lottery, which is fantastic. So I have a time-sensitive deadline to meet of this Friday, August 7th. and the application is quite intricate, very, I just want to make sure that I do everything correctly so that I stand a chance to be approved so that I have assistance in not losing my home for my 14-year-old and my son and I. My question is there any way that maybe your offices or someone from your office could assist me between today and Friday to make sure that I don't make any mistakes on my application so that I stand a good chance to receive this assistance? I don't want this assistance. This is very trying for me, but there's no other way.
The answer is absolutely yes. So, I think we have your information, or if we don't, you can leave it with us in the ways that the moderator suggested, and I will absolutely have somebody take a look at it for you, and if we need to find somebody else to advise us, we'll make sure we'll get all the help that you need to make sure that that's done correctly. Please don't worry. And second, let me just say, I hear what you're saying about feeling badly about applying for this kind of assistance, but you really should not. None of this is your fault. The government made some decisions to shut down the economy. It has told small business owners that you've got to slow down or shut down. It has imposed rules that make it hard for your customers to continue to be your customers. It is absolutely the responsibility of the government to help you get through these difficult times that were created by these decisions that we made. I think they're the right decisions because we have to protect human life. That's the most important thing. But we owe it to you as a small business owner. We owe it to everybody who was furloughed or lost their job because of this to try our best to make you as whole as possible. So you don't have to feel in any way bad. You've worked incredibly hard. None of this is your fault. And we have a responsibility to you. Okay?
Thank you, Congressman. And I want to finish with saying that, I hear a lot of negative comments being made. Social media, I detach myself from that, but even just, your normal environment with, freeloading or the $600 is too much or the, I'm here to tell you that $600 for a self-employed who received the most minimal, and I'm most grateful, $203 and the $600. I promise you that we are not taking lavish vacations. I promise you that we're not purchasing Lamborghinis off of the dealership showrooms. We're just barely making our rent and food and bills and catching up with our creditors and maybe anything that might be left over, trying to recuperate the savings that we had to deplete in a matter of moments. It's just the most amazing thing. And I know that everyone has their story and a plight and their own difficulties, some more than others. But like you said before, we are in control of our behavior. And if we just do the simple mask, wash our hands, social distance, love our neighbor, we have to love one another. We can get through this, we really could. And it didn't have to take the 4 or 5 months to do this. The divisiveness has been horrendous, and I come to your meetings because I find a lot of solace here. I find a lot of common-minded people, and even if we're not common-minded, I love you all regardless, and we really, I think you're absolutely right, Congressman. We control our behavior, and if we could just do what we need to do, then I can get back to business, and I can open up my shop, and I can feed you all, and I can love on you all, and I can send my son to high school and then college, and then all of the wonderful things that I always dreams of and wants to, and I'm on that path, and I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit that path. But I beg. I'm actually begging. We need to control this. We really do.
I can't possibly say it better than you just did. Let's try to make sure we help you through the next few days, one day at a time, and then just keep on helping each other. You know, I think you hit the nail on the head. We need to do this for each other. It's amazing to me that there are still people out there who are complaining about having to wear a mask, or saying we need to be brave, you know, our kids need to be brave. This isn't about being brave for ourselves. It's about being decent and compassionate to each other. We wear a mask so that your business can be open. We wear a mask so that your child can go back to school safely. We do it for other people. And if we only have that spirit, we have it through most of the country. I think almost all of us believe that. Unfortunately, there are some who don't, and there are some leaders who have not been encouraging that kind of responsible behavior, and it pains me and it makes me angry. And you have explained better than anybody I've heard recently why it's so important that we do the right thing. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Congressman Malinowski, and thank you so much, Judy. So glad to have you on the line. That was inspiring. You had me choking up, Judy. So thank you again so much for that. We've reached the end of our allotted time, but as I'm going to return this back over to the Congressman to give us a few closing remarks. But before I do, I want to ask everyone, if you still have a question, comment, or concern, stay on till the very end of the event, till after you hear Congressman Malinowski's final remarks, and leave us a voice message. Leave us your name, your phone number, and we will reach back out to you. Also, if you'd like to opt in to receive email updates, I encourage you to leave your email address at the end, too, in that voicemail. So now back to you, Congressman, to bring us to the finish line.
Thank you so much. I always wish we had more time to spend, but I imagine folks need to go and get dinner and take care of everything else that we need to be doing. But I do want to stress, just as you've heard, if you still have a question that hasn't been answered, whether it's a question about what Congress is doing or a policy issue, or just some help that you need in your own personal situation, please let us know. Leave a voicemail or send us an email, and we will do our best to get back to each and every person. It's really important for me to stay in touch with all of you, to stay accessible, to hear from you. This is where I get my priorities, by hearing what your priorities are, and I think they were pretty consistent today from everything that I heard. So you've had a very powerful impact on me. We'll hopefully have some good news in the next few days about some further relief, and hopefully that will, as we discussed, give us all a little bit more confidence that even in these divided times, our government can do something helpful and important. So with that, everybody please stay healthy and stay safe. Stay in touch with us, and look forward to our next opportunity to get together. Bye-bye.